Hello there. Welcome into a Friday edition of the show. So glad to have you. Whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the 100% free Extra Sports 1300 app. You can also, by the way, that app brought to you by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All. If you are watching the show on our social media platforms at Extra Sports 1300, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, YouTube, at XTRA Sports 1300, you'll notice that I have a very cushy setup because I am here in San Jose tomorrow. Air Force women's basketball will take on the San Jose State Spartans. They need a win. It's a big game tomorrow. But I'm here in my hotel, and I got pillows on my little couch here, so almost feels like one of those late night talk shows, except no one's going to be joining me except for you. But you can't come sit on my couch. Anyway, a veritable cornucopia of sports topics are coming your way over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. I want to talk a little bit about the football game last night, the one coming up today of the college variety, but obviously at the forefront of our minds is the game on Sunday between the Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. Now, I heard somebody ask Bo Nix this, and I'm not going to call anybody out. I don't know who asked the question, but it was phrased in a way that I thought was a little bit unfair to Bo Nix, if I'm being honest. And the question was basically phrased to him, what's it like to be mentioned in the same breath or mentioned in the same vein as Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson? Do you see the problem with that? Do you hear the problem with that? He's not in the same breath as those guys. He just so happens to be in the playoffs like those guys. So to phrase the question as if because he simply made the playoffs that he has arrived on that tier. And look, maybe it was just a poorly worded question, but I'm like, whoa. The worst thing, but it leads me into what I want to talk about when it comes to Bo Nix. But Bo Nix, as he always does, gave a great answer, and the answer that you want to hear him say. He said, it's amazing, but at the same time, as a competitor, I want to be urgent, and I want to grow and develop into where I can compete, and I'm on the same level as those guys. I'm not right now, but it's cool to go play the potential MVP next week. It's fun. It's playoff time. This is what you prepare for throughout the year, yada, yada, yada. Acknowledgement from Bo Nix that he's not there. And if you line up all these playoff QBs, especially in the AFC, Bo Nix sticks out. Bo Nix is unlike the others. He's even kind of unlike CJ Stroud. At least CJ Stroud has a year of playoffs under his belt. But it leads me into expectation for Bo Nix on Sunday. The worst thing that could happen is for the Denver Broncos to ask Bo Nix to be something that he is not. You've probably heard the stat thrown around. I believe it's 2 rookies have won playoff games in the last decade or so. CJ Stroud being one of them last year. When we're comparing Bo Nix to other rookie quarterbacks playing in the playoffs, Bo Nix is less CJ Stroud and more 2021 Mac Jones. Now, that's not meant to be a criticism, because remember, Mac Jones in 2021 was kind of a revelation just like Bo Nix. He wasn't the sexiest of all the quarterbacks taken in that draft, right? He was taken a little bit later, goes to New England, and he played great. Got the New England Patriots to the playoffs, and people were going, well, Brady who? And even you look at the numbers between just on your own time. I don't want to inundate you with numbers. Go look at Bo Nix's numbers this year compared to Mac Jones for the Patriots in 2021. They are eerily similar. Bo Nix has a few more touchdown passes, but interceptions, quarterback rating, yards, wins, if you're a quarterback win guy, almost identical to Mac Jones. And what happened, coincidentally, against the Buffalo Bills in the first round of the playoffs is the New England Patriots asked Freudian slip, asked Mac Jones to be more than what he had been for most of that season. They asked him to throw the ball more than he had in weeks, and it did not go well. Couple touchdowns, couple of picks. Now, it wasn't by design, and here's the point I'm getting at, because I don't think that Sean Payton is going to go in with the game plan of, okay, now it's time to unleash Bo Nix. He has handled this in terms of Bo Nix's development the right way for the vast majority of this season. I don't see Sean Payton all of a sudden asking him to do more than he's asked him to do for much of this season. And he's going to bank on that will be enough to keep the score close, and that's where Sean Payton can take over. I saw Peter Schrager on Good Morning Football on my flight this morning, and I think he correctly brought up, remember what Sean Payton has done. He's the onside kickoff in the Super Bowl guy. I believe that Sean Payton will give Buffalo something that they are not expecting. But it's a play call at a crucial spot in the game. It's not all of a sudden, hey, everything you thought you knew about Bo Nix, that's out the window because this is the new and improved Bo Nix that we're going to throw at you. It's not that. It's just in a crucial moment, Sean Payton will dial something up. I don't think he's going to ask Bo Nix to do anything really more than he's asked him to do this season, nor should he. The reason why Mac Jones did not have the same success as CJ Stroud in their respective playoff debuts is because the defense of the New England Patriots was a sieve. They could not stop Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Bill Belichick and company didn't go into the game with a game plan of having Mac Jones throw it 40 times against the Buffalo Bills. They had the idea of the same Mac Jones they've had throughout the season. It got them 10 wins. That's the guy they want. But the circumstances forced them to do more. They ended up losing by 30 in that game. Sean Payton is not going to put Bo Nix in a situation where he has to match Josh Allen throw for throw. Because that's not a winning recipe. Look at Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos against upper echelon quarterbacks this season. 0-2 against Herbert, 0-1 against Joe Burrow. And every time Bo Nix plays worse than his counterpart, doesn't necessarily play poorly in every one of those games, but he does not better the quarterback on the other side. The only quarterback of note that Bo Nix has gone head-to-head with that you would consider an upper echelon quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. But we know there's a difference between regular season and postseason Patrick Mahomes. But still, if you say, you know what, Mahomes is Mahomes, fine. That's one. Lamar Jackson, he didn't outplay. Joe Burrow, he didn't outplay. And Justin Herbert, twice he didn't outplay. It's a losing proposition for the Denver Broncos to ask Bo Nix to make all the plays that Josh Allen does. It is incumbent on the defense of the Denver Broncos to not ask Bo Nix to do more than he's capable of. The formula for Sunday is very much going to be run the football, short passing game from Bo Nix, play defense. The New England Patriots defense in 2021 let down Mac Jones. Josh Allen carved them up. Patriots had to throw out the game plan, and they had to ask Mac Jones to do way more than he was capable of, making his first career NFL playoff start. The Denver Broncos defense has to make sure that they avoid that same fate. They can't fall behind by multiple scores early. They can't have Josh Allen torching them, because then you're pulling Bo Nix out of his comfort zone in an already uncomfortable situation. That's when mistakes happen. That's when the score will get lopsided. So no one, including Bo Nix, is actually talking about him in the same vein as Josh Allen, nor should they. Maybe one day. The Broncos can't ask him to be Josh Allen. Be Bo Nix. He has done so much to help turn this team around, to bring this franchise back. The Broncos owe him a lot for that. He has played unlike a rookie. Now it's time for them to pay him back. Because in these games against elite teams, which Buffalo is, against elite quarterbacks, which Josh Allen is, they have not allowed Bo Nix to stay within himself. They have asked him to do more than he is capable of. If this game on Sunday rides on the arm and even the legs of Bo Nix, it's not going to go well for the Denver Broncos. But if Bo Nix plays within himself, if the Broncos run the football and stay committed to that run, and the Broncos defense does their part, they can be in this game. I told you earlier in the week, my gut feeling on this game is I'd probably still lean Buffalo to cover. I thought that the line would go a little bit more towards Denver, and that's when I would pounce to take Buffalo. It really hasn't. I think it's a game that the Broncos are never completely out of, but it's a game where you don't really feel like the Broncos have a chance to win. Like the Bills are just keeping them at bay, at arm's length at every turn. That's kind of how I feel like Sunday's going to go. And that's obviously disappointing if you're a Broncos fan, but it's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is Tim Tebow going into Foxborough. And I think that that's a possibility. That's the worst case scenario. But I think it's going to be more of the Broncos just, they keep it relatively close. You could feel good about it and come away from that game saying the Broncos aren't there yet. They're not on Buffalo's level. That's all right. You look at the season overall, and it's more than satisfactory. But if Bo Nix is going to join the list with C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy of these rookie quarterbacks that win their debut, it almost can't be because of him. Because he's not C.J. Stroud. And the Broncos aren't the San Francisco 49ers. We know that Brock Purdy's situation is very different than many quarterbacks. Patriots had something in Mac Jones, and then they ruined him. But that's a story for another day, and that's a Bo Nix conversation for another day. They had something in Mac Jones. He played well. He got them to the playoffs. But because the game got out of hand, Mac Jones had to let it rip, and it just got worse. Take your thoughts on Sunday's game, your prediction, 719 24/7 1313. Coming up next, we got a really good football game last night, which is good because I don't know if tonight's is going to be quite as enthralling. parts here that I have Ryan Kaufman with you in San Jose dealing with other work, and you don't care about any of that. Welcome back to the show. Last night, let's talk about that college football game because that was awesome. That was awesome. About 3 times during that game, I thought, oh, Notre Dame's going to win. Penn State's going to win. Penn State's definitely going to win. No, now Notre Dame's going to win. It was easily the best game that we had in the college football playoff to this point. And just on that part of it, I'm glad to see that, but I'm also not surprised because my big thing this whole time has been, as much as I am for expansion, it's probably expanding earlier than it needs to because the depth of talent in college football, the number of really elite teams just aren't there. So I did expect, as bad as that first round went, and some of that was to the way that the College Football Playoff Committee seeded the playoff, which I don't think that they actually did. They just tossed their teams into a spot based on their ranking instead of seeding the tournament, which you should do in a situation like that. But at any rate, I thought that it would get better, and it has, right? We got pretty much nothing the first round. The next round, we got about half and half good games, half bad. And then here in the semifinal, the first game in the semifinal, amazing. An amazing football game. So I guess in a way, it's kind of the ends justify the means a little bit. Like, I'm okay with expansion just as long as we're going to get to a really good product at the end. Now, with the team that's playing later this evening, they might just be so good that we don't. But at least in the other semifinal, we got a great game. So my thought on last night's game is it's kind of funny how this works. Because a lot of people are blaming James Franklin. A lot of people are putting heat on the Penn State coach, who has a reputation of not being able to win big games. And this was the biggest in his time as head coach of Penn State. And even though Drew Aller's the one that ultimately made the mistake that led to a Notre Dame win, people are blaming James Franklin for trusting Drew Aller in that moment. But then you look on the other side of the field. What won Notre Dame that game? From the Notre Dame perspective, taking away anything that Penn State did, what did Notre Dame do to be able to win that game? Riley Leonard threw the football. The quarterback that going into it is less talented as a passer of the football, Marcus Freeman, out, and he gets hurt, by the way. Riley Leonard gets hurt, evaluated for concussion. He turned out to be okay, but he comes out in the second half after a lackluster first half, and Marcus Freeman says, I'm still going to trust you to throw the football. And to Riley Leonard's credit, he did and was extremely effective in doing it. So Marcus Freeman and James Franklin, I think, had very similar ideas in that second half. And if you just look at it objectively, you would say, which quarterback do you trust more to throw the football late in a game? And it would be Drew Aller. But that's the double-edged sword part of this, right? James Franklin is being criticized, not more than Drew Aller, because I think people rightly are saying, look, that's a throw Drew Aller cannot make. But there's still, why aren't you running the football? Why are you asking Drew Aller to throw it at that stage? And I'm like, James Franklin's asking Drew Aller, the more talented of the two quarterbacks, to do the same thing Marcus Freeman is asking Riley Leonard. And yet, after the game is over, because this is how it always goes, Marcus Freeman is this leader of men, this great inspiration to his football team, a guy that invests in his players and trusts in his players in the biggest moments, and they deliver, and he's a genius and worth every penny that Notre Dame is paying him. And James Franklin is the same bum that keeps losing big games. That interception late in the game was not a problem of, and Greg McElroy even said it right before he stepped on the field, which is a viral clip today on social media, is that Greg McElroy is going on about how, I'm empowering my quarterback in this situation. I'm allowing him to try to get us down the field to win the game. And then immediately on this second play of the drive, he's throwing a pick. I agreed with him. And it wasn't like the play call was, hey, Drew Aller, throw it way downfield. It was a rather conservative pass play. But credit to the Notre Dame defense. They put Aller under pressure, and Aller made a mistake you just simply cannot make. You cannot make that throw back across the field. Is that really a poor job coaching by James Franklin? You don't think that James Franklin has told Drew Aller not to make throws like that in their time together? I didn't have a problem with what James Franklin did. Drew Aller showed the type of quarterback that he is at this point, which is supremely talented. He's got all the gifts that you need to be a successful quarterback, not only in college, but in the NFL. But he needs more time. This idea that he should come out this year, I think it was just coming from people that just want a third option at quarterback. Right? They want a third guy because this draft, it's Shador, it's Cam Ward. You decide amongst yourself which one you like better, but that's it. It's those two. Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers have fallen off the map. Quinn Ewers is going to be playing somewhere else next year. Carson Beck's already announced he's going to go to Miami. It's people want Drew Aller to be in there, and maybe this is scouts, maybe these are NFL teams, maybe it's just media members that want another quarterback to talk about. But the idea that Drew Aller was ready to go into the draft and take over an NFL franchise, to me, is laughable. He's not ready yet. And if we've learned anything from this NFL season, look at the two best rookie quarterbacks that we have, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. Look at the amount of football they have played. And I get it, especially Bo Nix exploited, I don't want to say exploited a loophole, but was a byproduct of, COVID and all that kind of stuff, and he got that many games. But if there should be any season or seasons that should show that quarterbacks should stay in school and get better and hone their craft, and the opportunity will still be there when they get to the NFL, it's Drew Aller. The money that's available, I get it. It's not NFL money, but it's money, right? And it's significant amount of money to most people who were ever in college. To get the amount of money Drew Aller's probably getting to play football at Penn State, you can get by for a little while on that. Drew Aller showed in the biggest moment of his Penn State career that he is not ready. Not ready to take that next step, as talented as he is. Last night, to me, just came down to Notre Dame making plays, Penn State not. They both committed to the run game. They both trusted their quarterback to throw the ball. Both defenses made some big plays. It just one of those games that goes back and forth, and you're just like, whoever has the ball last is going to win this game. And it just so happened to be Notre Dame. Now, James Franklin is Ryan Day light, right? He wins all of these games, and yet it's these little few that has Penn State fans going nuts. And I understand it, but the question that you have to ask if you're a Penn State fan and you're like, I'm done with James Franklin, who are you going to get that's better? You're not getting Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. So I get it. And this is not to say, hey, don't be frustrated. I mean, with Ohio State fans, they asked Ryan Day to win one game a year. Well, two. They want him to win a national championship, but they ask him to win Michigan, and he can't win that. I get it. It's incredibly frustrating, but the guy wins every other game that he coaches. It's just that Michigan loss, when he sustains it, keeps them from advancing and trying to win a national championship. Same with James Franklin. James Franklin is a big reason why Penn State is where it is right now. So who are you going to get to replace him that's better? It would just, in the biggest moments of last night's game, you have to give credit to Riley Leonard. You have to give credit to Notre Dame. And you got to look at Drew Aller and say, dude, you can't make that throw. You can't make that decision this late in the game. Overtime is a better alternative than what he did. But that was a great game. Great game last night. And I hope that tonight is as good. I am not confident in that. Take your thoughts. How much blame do you put on James Franklin for last night? How much is on Drew Aller? And what do you think about Notre Dame? I saw a piece the other day that says now Notre Dame is likable. Growing up, a Notre Dame, and I'll just tell you real quick for those who don't know, I grew up with a very stereotypical fandom when it comes to college teams. If you look at me, and I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, look at me. What college football team do you think I root for? I grew up rooting for Notre Dame. Which college basketball team do you think I grew up rooting for? Duke. But so not incredibly surprising. But Notre Dame, obviously one of the most hated, just like Duke, one of the most hated programs. And now because of Marcus Freeman, people are saying that Notre Dame's likable, which I never thought I would. I never thought I would see the day where in regards to the two football teams I grew up rooting for, that Notre Dame would become likable and people would pull for them, and Kansas City would become unlikable. That Kansas City would do anything to make people not like them. Because when I grew up, Broncos fans obviously didn't like Kansas City, but they didn't do anything on a big time stage to become hated. I don't know if Notre Dame's super likable still. They're still Notre Dame. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on last night's Orange Bowl. And then tonight we have Ohio State and Texas in the Cotton Bowl. I have some thoughts on that a little bit later as well here on Extra Sports 1300. Drive Time Sports, Ryan Kaufman with you on this Friday before Super Wildcard Weekend. And with the college football playoff semifinals, we get 5 consecutive days of playoffs when it comes to football, which is pretty dope. Other sports are going on. In fact, last night, Avs with a big bounce back against the Minnesota Wild. And I said this, as disappointing as the result and really the effort, because the Avs against Chicago did their overpassing thing that they tend to do. And I think that it made Peter Mrazek's job a little bit too easy. The Avs didn't really take all the chances that were available to them. But Mrazek played extremely well, and the Avs lose. But you put Trent Miner in goal for the Chicago game to make sure that Mackenzie Blackwood gets the night off that he needs so he's ready to go against Minnesota. Because last night is going to be a significant game. No matter which way it goes, it's going to be significant down the road. And the Avs, in every way, shape, and form, bounced back last night. 6-1. They housed Minnesota. And I don't know how the Wild have gotten by without Kirill Kaprizov, but they have until now. And then they ran into the Avs, and they just I don't know who's been scoring goals for them. When Kaprizov was playing, they were so dependent on him, and he was brilliant. Then he gets hurt. He's missed the last, 6-7 games now. I don't know who else on that team is supposed to score goals. I don't know how Minnesota got by without him. But they are, to their credit. But they ran into a buzzsaw. And they were going to get the Avs' absolute best. Even more so. The worst thing that could have happened to the Minnesota Wild was the Avs losing to Chicago. It was, because even though the Avs were always going to look forward to that Minnesota game, they were always going to put more into that Minnesota game. Now you have the added element of they're upset. They feel like they didn't put forth their best effort against Chicago, and it ended up costing them. So it was even worse for Minnesota, a worse situation. But the way the Avs are playing, when they're right, I'm telling you, they're about as good as anybody in the NHL. I said this a few days ago. They're back in Stanley Cup contending status. What I have seen from this team, and it just continued on last night, they're on the short list of teams that can win a Stanley Cup again. And everyone's going to focus on the six. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't think everyone's focused on the 6 goals. I think everybody's focused on the one. Just where the Avs are at right now, more people are focused on the fact that they gave up 1 goal than they scored 6. Mackenzie Blackwood right now is in the top 5 of the NHL in save percentage. I mean, he did obviously a lot of work in San Jose, but he comes over to the Avs and he's been even better. I'm not there yet. And I still think ultimately anyone is going to have a hard time beating Connor Hellebuck. Could Mackenzie Blackwood by the end of the year be in the Vezina conversation? Just throwing out. He's doing the things. He's putting up the numbers in the spots that matter. Not goaltender wins like Georgiev did. Save percentage, goals allowed average. He's putting himself among the best goaltenders in the NHL. And like I said, maybe Connor Hellebuck runs away with this thing. Mackenzie Blackwood is trending in a direction where he's going to be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. Think about that. Think about where your expectations for what you wanted an Avs goaltender to be and how Georgiev wasn't that. And you make this move and you're super optimistic about it. And now Mackenzie Blackwood is trending to be in the Vezina Trophy conversation. Now, there's a long way to go. But you look at the numbers he's putting up. How many guys in a world where Igor Shesterkin has been hurt for most of this year, and I know he is just coming back now for the Rangers. There's no Shesterkin. And again, Hellebuck might run away with it, but they got to name 3 finalists. Mackenzie Blackwood could be one of them. That's wild. That is wild to think about, given where the Avs were to begin this season. I don't know what the playoffs are going to bring, but I'm pretty certain that this Avs team is going to look about like this the rest of the way. Maybe they'll drop off a little bit. Maybe they'll go through a rough stretch. I think this is who the Avs are now. And we're going to look back after game 82 and look back to game 1 and be like, my goodness, look at how far this team has come. So Avs pick up a massive 2 points. It's one of those proverbial 4-point nights. They get 2 points. Their division rival has none. Minnesota is a team, I said this yesterday, I think they're going to start to slip a little bit. Maybe last night is the start of that. But I don't know if they can catch Winnipeg. They might be able to catch Minnesota. And last night was a big step in that direction. Avs win 6-1. 719-24-7-13-13. Coincidentally enough, when I was in Portland a couple of weeks ago, saw the Nuggets, which was kind of a coincidence. I was only in Portland for a couple of days, and it just so happened that the Blazers were playing the Nuggets. Now tomorrow night, I'm going to the Sharks game and fully expecting to see Alexander Georgiev in goal. I'll report back, let you know how it's going. I've been following it from afar and arriving here in San Jose and hearing some things. It's not going well. And what Georgiev hoped, or people that support Georgiev were hoping, is, hey, he changes scenery, could do him some good, less pressure. This is a team that's rebuilding. Maybe he can get right. He hasn't. He hasn't. 719-24. Not even worse than Russell Wilson. I think Broncos fans are a little bit content with what has all happened out of the Russell Wilson trade. At least Russell Wilson had some success. It doesn't look like Alexander Georgiev is having much of any here in San Jose. 719-24-7-13-13. Coming up next, we talk the defensive side of the ball. What do the Broncos need to get the better of Josh Allen? And I'll tell you the most important Bronco on the defensive side of the football for Sunday. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this Friday. Ryan Kaufman with you live in my home for the next couple of days here in San Jose. Air Force taking on San Jose State tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock, right here on Extra Sports 1300. And then almost immediately following that, you'll hear the Ravens and the Steelers to begin our playoff coverage. You can watch the show live even today. Yes, we've figured it out from a technological standpoint on our social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube at XTRA Sports 1300. If you have some thoughts and predictions going into Super Wildcard Weekend, I'd love to hear them or read them. 719 24/7 1313. So, started the show by talking about how if the Denver Broncos ask Bo Nix to be more than he has been this season, to ask him to raise his game to another level in order to compete with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, I think that is a losing proposition, and that is a proposition that will get the Broncos maybe blown out on Sunday. But a lot of that falls on the defense because I don't think Sean Payton has any inkling of letting Bo Nix off his leash, whatever metaphor you want to use. The defense has got to do their job. The formula for the Denver Broncos to win this football game on Sunday is the same it has been for every Sunday and Thursday and Monday throughout the season. Run the football, play defense. And the Broncos defensively have to be who they are. That's the overarching theme here of Sunday for the Denver Broncos. Don't be something that you're not. Be who you are, do what has brought you success throughout the season, and hope that it's enough. Yeah, maybe Sean Payton digs into his bag of tricks a little bit here. But in terms of the game plan, in terms of what will bring the Broncos success, it has to be the same stuff that's brought them success throughout the season. And one of those things is getting to the quarterback. The issue, though, is that there is perhaps no quarterback that is better under pressure. And I don't mean pressure like 2 minutes left in a game, you're driving down the field. I mean rushers coming at you. No quarterback in the league has been better under pressure than Josh Allen. And you think about how good Lamar Jackson is under pressure, how good Justin Herbert is under pressure, what they both did to the Denver Broncos in their 3 meetings this year. Josh Allen's better. So it's even more imperative that the Broncos are mindful of what makes Josh Allen so good against pressure. I've heard Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito both talk about this week. The way that Nick Bonito put it is perfect. You can't be selfish as a pass rusher. Right? The strength of the Denver Broncos pass rush this season and how they've gotten to a franchise record in sacks and led the league in sacks is that it's been about the collective. Even though Nick Bonito has emerged as their best sack artist, the idea for the Denver Broncos is we all go after the guy. And if he happens to be near Nick Bonito, it's Nick Bonito. If he's near Zach Allen, it's Zach Allen. It's everybody has gotten to eat with this Broncos pass rush. And what Nick Bonito was talking about is if you get through to go after Josh Allen, you got to stay in your lane. If he gets away from you, then so be it. Trust that the other guy is going to be there to pick you up. But if you lose your gap assignment, that's what Josh Allen will see, and he'll use his size or his quickness to get away from you, and he'll take the space that you vacated, and he'll run it up. And the worst thing that the Broncos can do on Sunday is expect their secondary to tackle Josh Allen. I would expect the Broncos to blitz Josh Allen, to bring pressure against Josh Allen, because that's what they do. But you saw this, I think with Justin Herbert, it was just a matter of they couldn't quite get there fast enough. They created pressure, but Justin Herbert was quicker on the trigger, and Josh Allen could be that way. But you go back to the Ravens game, and I think you saw a Broncos team that was maybe a little bit more selfish on the pass rush. They lost contain on Lamar Jackson, and he killed him. So the lessons learned from that game, which is in many ways the most comparable game they have on their schedule to what they're going up against on Sunday. Yes, get after the quarterback, but make sure that you're not deviating off of your path, that you're not leaving space or losing contain to where Josh Allen can get out. So I think Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito certainly both know the assignment, but that's what it is. It's getting through whatever gap you're going to shoot. Get through there and get after him, but don't, swerve. What's that line from LeAngelo Ball that everybody's saying? Swerve, bend that corner. You can't lose gap integrity going against Josh Allen. Now, the most important player, I think, to tie, because he's going to tie everything together. Obviously, Pat Surtain is their best player defensively. Nick Bonito's vitally important. But the guy that I'm really looking at on Sunday is Riley Moss. The last time we saw Riley Moss in a game that was both important, but also going up against an elite team or elite talent, I should say, because the Cincinnati Bengals are not an elite team. Riley Moss got torched. Now, some of that could have been his first game back in however long. Certainly, it will help that the Buffalo Bills don't have T. Higgins on their roster. But I'm very curious to see how Riley Moss plays, because the Broncos, I think, will bring pressure. They'll play man coverage. Pat Surtain, I have the utmost confidence that whether it's Amari Cooper and or Keon Coleman or whatever wide receiver Vance Joseph feels like Pat Surtain needs to be on, and they'll mix and match. Certainly Buffalo doesn't have a Jamar Chase to where you just want Pat Surtain to shadow that one guy. It's okay for him to bounce back and forth between a Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper. But whoever Riley Moss is on, he's got to hold up his end of the bargain. Because if he gets beat like he was against Cincinnati, Buffalo and Josh Allen will do the same thing that Cincinnati did. And by the way, because as Sean Payne has said, this is life playing opposite Pat Surtain, I think the Bills are going at Riley Moss right out of the gate. no matter who he's covering, whether it's Cooper, whether it's Shakir, whether it's Keon Coleman. I think they're going to target Riley Moss because they saw the Cincinnati game just like you and I did. And again, they don't need the Cincinnati game to favor Riley Moss's side when Pat Surtain is on the other. But I would expect a concerted effort to attack Riley Moss and see if he can hold up better than he did against Cincinnati. If Riley Moss can play like he has for much of this season, I think the back end of the Broncos defense will hold up. And then up front, it's strength on strength. It's Josh Allen against the pressure of the Denver Broncos. Can it get there fast enough? Can they bring him down? And can they keep gap integrity to where Josh Allen doesn't sneak out of the backfield and rip off a 12, 15-yard run? But I'll say this, too, about Buffalo. They need to run the football. It can't, part of this with Buffalo, and it's the bigger picture. Why Buffalo may be a better matchup for Kansas City, meaning Buffalo has a better chance of beating Kansas City this year than they have in the past, is because of James Cook. And what better time to get him going right out of the gate, game one of the playoffs. I think Buffalo is going to look to run the football as well and not put it all on Josh Allen to win. But perhaps it could, that going back to that Ravens game, it could be one of those, let's open with Josh Allen, let's close with James Cook. I think that's what the best case scenario will be for Buffalo, but they're going to run the football because they need to make sure James Cook is clicking, because that's how forget even before they get to Kansas City, a potential matchup with Baltimore. They're going to need James Cook to be able to run the football. So I expect Buffalo to do that. I would think they come out throwing the football, trying to punch the Broncos in the mouth, this young, inexperienced Broncos team, try to hit some big plays in the passing game at Riley Moss. And then if they open things up, then that's when they start feeding James Cook. I think that's the script for Buffalo. We'll see if the Denver Broncos can disrupt it. Speaking of the Denver Broncos, Pat Surtain, some of the other members of this defense, the AP All-Pro team has come out as all these accolades are starting to be handed out. And you know what? For once, and I say this being kind of a member of the media got it right, except one guy. I'll explain next on Extra Sports 1300. Your thoughts, welcome on this Friday, 719-247-1313. From the 719, hey, Kaufman, if the Bronx pull this one out in Buffalo, you can back up a truckload of crow to Old Chicago and I'll eat it. I'll buy you a beer for your troubles. Yeah, look, I'm not I'm not backing up a truckload of crow to you because I'm right there with you. Somebody else has to do it with us if the Broncos end up winning this game. I don't I mean I don't see it. I don't see it. But there's a reality in here where the Broncos are competitive in that game. They afford themselves well onto the playoff stage, and you can just chalk it up to it's a team with Super Bowl aspirations, and the Broncos aren't there yet. The worst case scenario is that they get run out of the place. Now, I was talking about this the other day, and I don't know if I didn't explain it the best way. At this point, if the Denver Broncos get blown out, it doesn't mean that the season is not a success. What would have been the epic failure of this Broncos season as of about 4 or 5 weeks ago is if they didn't make the playoffs. Once they beat Indy, once they got up to a 75-80% chance of making the playoffs, when they lost to the Chargers, lost to the Bengals, the fact that if they lose week 18, there's potentially out of the postseason, that would have been an epic failure and would have undone all the good work that they did. Because to me, you evolve, your expectations change almost on the fly, and the Denver Broncos had done enough to say that making the playoffs they should have done. I mean, I didn't expect this team to be a playoff team when the season started, but certainly the way things played out, they needed to be. They put themselves in position to be. So to lose these last 3 games, especially by the way that they lost LA and lost to Cincinnati, where I thought that the Broncos had every opportunity to win the game and win away from some of the things that were making them successful, not just this season, but in that particular game. If they would have lost to Kansas City, especially considering who Kansas City did and did not play, it would have been one of the biggest choke jobs in the history of the Broncos franchise. It would have been a disaster. But they got it done. They got into the playoffs. This season is already a success. And that's what I keep saying. Sunday is found money, it's house money. Now, if they play that house money and they get blown out, then it will leave a real sour taste in your mouth. It will, but it doesn't completely wipe away what this season was. It's just it makes you understand that they are a long way off to get to where the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions, where those teams are. But the part of their season that I would have labeled an epic failure and would have said undoes a lot of the good that this Broncos team did, that's already done. They already took care of that. And that's what I said at the beginning of the week. What I urge you to do as a Broncos fan is just hold on to that. Hold on to that. This season is already a success. Nobody is expecting the Denver Broncos to win in Buffalo, and plenty of people are thinking that game's not going to be competitive. If you outpace those expectations, great, all the better. Even adds to what this season has been. But even if they get run out of the place, this is still a success. And they still, once they got to that Colts game and won that game, they accomplished the next goal. They accomplished the thing that they needed to, which was getting into the playoffs. Sunday won't change that. Sunday is now, it's entertainment value, obviously. It's celebrating, hey, the Broncos are in the playoffs for the first time. And now it's gauging where they're at to get to the next step, right? To get to the next level, what they need. Because it will be another chance on Sunday to measure themselves against one of the better teams in the NFL. And this season has shown that the Broncos have not done well against those teams. They haven't beaten one elite team. And they've beaten the backups for one elite team, and they beat one other playoff team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chargers have lost to twice. I don't have to run through the whole thing. You've seen it. The Broncos have failed to measure up to the elite teams, but they shouldn't. They shouldn't be able to measure up. But that's what I'm looking out for beyond the result is just, okay, another chance to see the Broncos measure themselves against one of the best in the NFL. How far are they away? What do they need to take that next step? I do not think they'll win. I think Buffalo will be comfortably in command almost the entire game. Doesn't mean I think it's going to be a 30-point blowout, but it just the sense that Buffalo's not giving this game away. Broncos aren't taking this game from them. But I'll be sitting right next to you at Old Chicago, ready to eat that crow if the Denver Broncos once again exceed expectations. But here's the thing with Denver. They've become quite predictable over the past 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, really look at it. How the games have played out has been a little hard to predict. Right? But the end result, when's the last time that you yourself incorrectly predicted whether the Broncos would win or lose? The one game in like the last 2 months that I got wrong with the Denver Broncos is Cincinnati. I thought they would beat Cincinnati. That's the only one. I thought they'd lose to the Chargers. I thought they'd beat the Browns. I thought they beat the Colts. Like they've over the course of the season, you know enough about these teams to know what they're going to do in a game. And depending on the level of competition, the Broncos have drawn a clear line. If you are not a playoff team or you're kind of on the bubble outside of Cincinnati, they will beat you. If you are a playoff team, with one exception, Tampa Bay, Broncos will lose to you. They've been pretty easy to predict. So Sunday, if they win, it will be really a shock. But hey, why not? I don't mind previewing another Broncos playoff game. Why not? Go up there to Buffalo and win. All pro teams came out, and I know the media takes a lot of flack, deservedly so at times. But we've seen the Pro Bowl come out. We've seen the players vote on their all-pro team, and there have been 2 big snubs on those. And it's been Zach Allen and it's Quinn Meinerz. Well, credit where credit's due to the voters of the AP All-Pro team. They got it right. Now, maybe you'd like to see Zach Allen first team or whatever, but they got Quinn Meinerz right. And that was the big one to me. Why isn't Quinn Meinerz getting more love for what he has done this season? And today, the AP All-Pro team came out. Quinn Meinerz, first team All-Pro. So I say it's the fans are one thing, the players are another thing. That's why we hold the awards that the press votes on, the media votes on in the highest regard, because it's their job. It's their job to know what else is going on around the league. Players don't always pay attention. Fans don't always pay attention. But the All-Pro selections came out. Quinn Meinerz is your first team All-Pro right guard, deservedly so. Pat Surtain, deservedly one of the first team All-Pro corners. Of course, Marvin Mims. Man, Marvin Mims is set up to have quite the decorated career. He is winning everything when it comes to returning his first couple of years. So those are your first teamers, and then you go. Zach Allen got second team all defense. He got beat out by Cam Hayward and Chris Jones of the Chiefs. I don't think that the voters got it wrong, and at least they got Zach Allen as a second teamer. So I have to say the AP All-Pro team more right than the players, NFLPA's All-Pro team. And the difference has been Quinn Meinerz. But I can give the voters of the AP All-Pro team and the media in general a lot of credit, and deservedly so. Pat Surtain was not unanimous. And look, not everybody has to be unanimous everything. There are always dissenters, and the important thing is most people don't remember unanimous. They really don't. But we like to look and see, hey, who didn't vote this guy in? Like, who didn't vote Derek Jeter in the first go round for the Baseball Hall of Fame? One of the 50 voters looked at Pat Surtain and said, he's not the best corner in football. Meanwhile, we're having a conversation of whether Pat Surtain is the best defensive player in the league, period, regardless of position. We've moved on. We're talking about Pat Surtain winning Defensive Player of the Year, which he should. And somebody that votes for the AP All-Pro team says that Pat Surtain isn't even the best at his position. History does not usually remember whether you are unanimous this, unanimous that. But in the moment, we care a lot. And when it comes to Pat Surtain, to not have him as the first team All-Pro corner is insane to me. He's the best defensive player in the league. And somebody doesn't even think he's the best corner. That's wild. But this happens, right? That this is why you have more than just one media member vote. You have a lot of them, and usually when a lot of them vote, they get it right overall. And then there are a few dissenters that you look at and you demand that they show themselves so they could be publicly ridiculed. And I have not seen the voter who took to X to say this is why I didn't vote for Pat Surtain, but that he or she just got it wrong. Just flat out wrong. Pat Surtain is the best corner without a doubt. I mean, going into last year, the conversation was him or Sauce Gardner, and now Pat Surtain is leaps and bounds, is light years ahead of Sauce Gardner. We're not even having that conversation anymore. Surtain is easily the best at what he does. And for one, even out of 50, to be like, no, I don't think so. That's wild. That's wild to me. But thankfully, it's not one voter, it's 50. And the other 49 are like, yeah, this is easy. Next. But they got right. Pat Surtain, Quinn Meinerz, Marvin Mims, first team All Pros. And yes, here's the other part of it. Broncos draft pick, Broncos draft pick, Broncos draft pick. The work that George Payton has done in the draft. We could talk about that trade for that one quarterback till we're blue in the face, and that will forever be on his resume. He drafted Marvin Mims. He drafted Quinn Meinerz, drafted Pat Surtain, drafted Nick Benito. There is use for him in the Sean Payton regime there in Denver. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, talk a little college football. Any chance that Texas knocks off Ohio State, and other thoughts on Super Wildcard Weekend outside of Bills and Broncos. No word yet on whether Nikola Jokic will be back tonight for the Denver Nuggets as they take on the Brooklyn Nets. Michael Malone will meet with the media probably here in an hour-ish to update Nikola Jokic's status. By the way, while he was out the last two games, he became the leading scorer in the NBA because obviously his averages stayed the same. Couple of other guys, or one other guy went down, and so now Nikola Jokic is the leading scorer in the NBA. And that's always been something that he could do. Is it in the best interest of the Denver Nuggets? Is it the way that he wants to play? I would say no and no. But anybody that's watched him can see that if he had a mentality of a Shaq or somebody like that who just, I'm going to dominate the game scoring, he could. But it's not in the best interest of the Nuggets. The Nuggets aren't at their best when Nikola Jokic is putting up massive scoring numbers. It's more about the assists and the other stuff that he does to make everybody else around him better. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have that ability. And we've seen it this year. So he's the leading scorer in the NBA. We'll see if he's on the floor tonight against Brooklyn. Again, we'll find out in a little bit. Also, we'll figure out who Notre Dame's going to play as Ohio State takes on Texas. I thought last night was a toss-up game. The scoreline indicated it was. The game, watching it, was a toss-up. I don't think today is going to be quite that way. There is a good chance that Ohio State is just that much better than everybody else. And I know they've had losses, right? They've had losses. So how can they be head and shoulders above everyone else? They lost to Oregon. This Ohio State team is different than the one that lost to Michigan. They are. What they have done offensively to incorporate more misdirection in their run game has opened everything up. They were already a good passing team. Now they're more well-balanced than they were even a few games ago. Defensively, they've been really good all year, but I think this Ohio State team has changed a little bit going into the playoff, and now they've kind of unlocked this next level where they look unstoppable. And the best evidence of that is you take where they were against Oregon to where they were against Oregon in the Rose Bowl. There's a chance that Ohio State is just that much better than everyone else, Texas and Notre Dame included. But we'll see if tonight is as compelling as last night was. I think one big difference that goes in Ohio State's favor if they do it this way, I think they can get pressure on Quinn Ewers without committing extra rushers. And I think that is something that will bother Quinn Ewers. You know, Kenny Dillingham took a lot of heat for dialing up that blitz on fourth down in overtime against Texas when Quinn Ewers made that touchdown throw. I think Ryan Day is going to make Quinn Ewers diagnose the coverage, read the defense, and make plays that way. And I don't know if Quinn Ewers is able to do it. I think he is talented enough that if he has the one read, he has the one guy that he can go to because he's under duress, like Arizona State tried to put him under. he can make the throw, and he can make any throw on the field. I just question whether he can pick apart a defense like Ohio State that is really good at all three levels. And there are some players that I think can really disrupt the game here. I do not feel great about Texas's chances. But we'll see how tonight goes. I got Ohio State winning. In Ohio State, Notre Dame, it will be a good championship. But there's a chance that Ohio State, this version of Ohio State, is just that much better than everybody else. Wouldn't it be shocking, right? We've seen that in college football the last few years. Georgia, Alabama, these LSU, these teams that are just they're just a notch above everyone else. This Ohio State team might be. And we kind of lost track of that because of one, them losing games. But two, we get caught up in the, Ryan Day has to win this game and all these other games don't matter. Going into the season, everyone talked about Ohio State being the Yankees of college football. They have the highest payroll of any team in college football. They have the most talent of anybody in college football. And that may show out tonight, and it may show out even in the championship against Notre Dame. We'll see. I think Ohio State wins. As far as the NFL this weekend, I've said all I need to say on Broncos Bills. I think that the Bills win. I think that they are in control of that game for the vast majority of it. I said yesterday that if history tells us anything, we'll get one betting underdog to win. I have thrown my lot in with the LA Rams to be that team on Monday night. We'll have a chance to talk more about that game on Monday. I think that the Chargers do beat the Texans. I think that's a complete toss-up game where I'll just take Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh over DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud. Simple as that. I don't dislike Houston. I don't think they're as good as they were last year. Injuries have a big part in that, certainly. But I'll take Herbert and Harbaugh to move on. I think Ravens Steelers is a lot like Bills Broncos. I think there's a path to where the Steelers can be competitive, be in that game till late, just like the Broncos. But I think that the Ravens will keep them at bay. I think the Ravens will be in control of that game and they will win. What am I missing here? I like Philly. I'll take Philly over Green Bay because now Green Bay has some questions about the health of their quarterback. Jalen Hurts is good to go, but we know that Saquon is how that team goes. Saquon is the most important player on that offense. I think, hey, if you're going to sit him when he has a chance to break Eric Dickerson's record and you don't run him into the ground and make sure that you win and advance in these playoffs, then Nick Sirianni may end up getting fired. You save Saquon to have him ready for the playoffs at full strength and healthy, unleash him. So I like Philly and I think Tampa. I think Tampa beats Washington. I think that's going to be a great game. I think Washington certainly has a better chance of beating Tampa. Jaden Daniels has a better chance of being a rookie with a playoff win this weekend than I think Bo Nix is. But I think Tampa's been here before. Tampa's a more well-rounded team. And I think Tampa wins. So that's where I'm going. Charger. I got both LA teams. I got Buffalo. I got Baltimore. I got Philly. I got Tampa. Not a lot of inspired picks, I know, but it's the way I feel. Our coverage of the NFL playoffs with our friends at Westwood One begins tomorrow night. We will have Steelers Ravens. We will have the second 2 games of Sunday. Just to let you in on it, if the Broncos make the AFC Championship, then we are allowed to carry Westwood One's coverage. But we will have the Philly Green Bay game, and then the late game on Sunday, Tampa Bay and Washington. And then we will be back together again on Monday and be ready for Minnesota and LA. So that's what we got. Coming up tonight, Air Force hockey. Coming off that big win against conference leading Sacred Heart, is at home against Bentley. Our coverage begins at 6:30 with Jay Ritchie and Dave Toller. Very busy Air Force weekend. Got hockey today. Got both basketball teams coincidentally playing San Jose State. The men's basketball team for Air Force will be at Clune Arena. I obviously am in San Jose with the women's team. Men tip off at 1, women at 2, and then the second game of the Air Force hockey season can be heard on 740 KVOR tomorrow because we have Ravens and Steelers. So I think that just about covers it. One word, we'll let Brett get the last word in, talking about the AP All-Pro teams. One member of that voting block did not pick Pat Surtain to be first team all corner. Brett says, I think we all know who the one guy that the media missed on the All-Pro team is. Oh, I read that wrong. I thought you said, I think we know who missed, was the one guy that missed. Who the one guy that we missed out on. Yep. I'm with you. Biggest snub. Are they doing that, by the way? Has anybody watched First Things First today? Has Nick Wright said that Patrick Mahomes is the biggest all-pro snub in the history of all-pro snubs? I can take a good-natured ribbing. I do not think Patrick Mahomes was one of the 2 best. I don't think he was one of the 3 best. I said when the Pro Bowl came out, Allen, Lamar, and Burrow. That's the list. Sorry. Now, getting ready to see playoff Mahomes, which is going to be different, but he doesn't deserve to be an all-pro quarterback this year. There are years that Brady didn't. Happens. But I get what you're doing, Brett. Here's an interesting note, by the way, on the quarterbacks. Only once since actually John Elway won MVP. I believe he won MVP, or did he win All-Pro in 87? Let's see. I'll check that. But it's been since then, since 1987. Yeah, John Elway won MVP. I should know that off the top of my head. Joe Montana was first team All-Pro. This courtesy of it was Bruce Nolan, who is a football researcher. Since 1987, there has not been a quarterback that was named MVP who is not first team All-Pro. Why is that significant? Lamar Jackson is the first team All-Pro quarterback. So if Josh Allen were to win MVP, as I think he deserves to, I'm okay with some years looking at stats and saying this was the most outstanding season, but when there is a compelling case to emphasize the second letter of MVP and talk about value, and he still put up great, like Josh Allen put up good numbers this year. Like, it's not like he nickel and dimed his way throughout the season. He put up pretty good numbers, not Lamar numbers. I don't think every year you have to go away from the guy with the best stats in order to make a value argument. I think a lot of years the guy with the best numbers is the most valuable. But I think that Josh Allen would be MVP for me. And maybe I'm doing the same thing to Lamar Jackson that people did to Nikola Jokic. I don't have a problem with Lamar Jackson winning. I just think with what Buffalo has changed with their team and what Josh Allen was still able to do, I think preseason prognostications matter. I think you watch Buffalo and they are far more impressive at week to week than I thought they would be. Losing the players that they lost, I would vote Josh Allen, but I'm perfectly okay with Lamar Jackson winning the MVP. And for the record, I did say I was fine with Joel Embiid winning the MVP when he did. I just didn't like the reason a lot of people voted for him, which was anti-Jokic. As long as you're pro Josh Allen and not anti-Lamar, I'm okay with it. And because that's where I am. I'm not anti-Lamar, but Josh Allen, I think, embodied MVP more than Lamar Jackson this year. Only just. But if Josh Allen were to win MVP, he would be the first quarterback since John Elway to win the MVP while not being first team All-Pro. And I think there's some interesting parallel there, considering how Josh Allen and John Elway have, you are familiar that John Elway could have drafted Josh Allen. Yes, that's what I was getting at. So we'll see. But if Josh Allen beats out Lamar Jackson, he would be the first quarterback since John Elway to win MVP and not be first team All-Pro. That'll do it for me. Enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to some of you on Saturday for Air Force women's basketball. Hopefully, I'll talk to all of you at the very least on Monday at 3 to talk Broncos Bills. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget Air Force hockey coming up at 6:30 here on Extra Sports 1300.